I started this YouTube channel to help you at your worst, to help you get to your best so that you could amaze yourself. Today, I have the amazing Vicki Keith. I know her as a swimmer. Uh, it would take the full 30 minutes to name all your accomplishments. She's done so many incredible, amazing swims. The one that really inspired me was her one summer having swum across all 5 Great Lakes. Uh, and like I said, swimming accomplishments, too many to name. She's raised over $1 million for programs for children with disabilities. She's a coach, a speaker, and an amazing human being. Vicki Keith, how you doing?
I'm excellent, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing awesome. So I'm a little starstruck, not gonna lie, because I've had a quote on you of my mirror for like months to get ready for my Manitoulin swim. So I had a quote in my mirror and I'd look at it every day to help me mentally get ready. And that quote was, at first you got to believe it's possible, then you got to keep reminding yourself why you're doing it. So that really shaped my mindset. And that's kind of what we're talking about today. It's the why, it's the meaning. So you chose the subject, living a meaningful life. Can you explain why you chose this subject?
Well, I sort of thought, what were my values? What are the things that have led me to where I am? And you had specifically asked me about a value, and that it's so much more complicated than that. And so when I put them all together, all I could think about is who am I? And it's what is important is living a meaningful life in every aspect of what we're doing. And we all have different perspectives from that. As a parent, you would see it differently. As a coach, as an athlete, we each have what would be meaningful. For me as a young person, meaningful was by the time I was 10, I was volunteering and working at my local Y and helping young people in a pool. As I became an athlete, it became, how could I make a positive impact? Well, it was by raising funds. I mean, it wasn't a common thing to do when I started my open water swimming career, to raise funds for something. And it's actually become very much a marathon swimmer's world, is if you're going to do something spectacular, draw somebody else along with you and support them as well. As a coach, making a positive impact in the lives of each young person. So when I thought about your question, that was the thing that became most important to me, and the thing that rings true in every stage of my life. Is my goal has become just to live a meaningful life, make a positive impact.
So, that's an excellent answer. I love that. Yeah, I always take a second to process and absorb some information. So what would you say it is now? Are you comfortable sharing that with us? What would be your meaning kind of drive right now?
Well, very much coaching still. I love working with athletes. I love working both with athletes in the mainstream program, but also athletes with disabilities. And I love mentoring, and that's sort of something that I do a little bit behind the scenes. And I have a number of different coaches that I work with and speak with, and help guide them along their process using some of the things that I've learned in my time.
I love that. Okay, so it's very much like a mentorship role right now.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I like both. I still spend a lot of time working with athletes, and that is something that's very important to me.
Well, indirectly, you really shaped my mindset. So, I have Laura's book here, so
Yes.
I read your pages, I read your quote, and the other technique that you inspired me with was the visualization piece. You had the map of the Great Lakes, which you would stare at. I printed out a picture of Manitoulin Island, and I would stare at that for pretty much a year straight to get me mentally ready for my swim. So I thank you for that as well.
Oh, that's cool. But also with that map, to put inspirational quotes all around it, to put pictures of yourself in different stages of success, right? To little memories there, here and there, that matter. So it becomes a piece of art as well. I talk to people about how their life is their true masterpiece, and we think about a masterpiece of something hanging in a gallery somewhere, but truly, what is our masterpiece? It's our lives. And if we can create something that inspires us and start living that life, when we're 80, 90, or my goal is 132 years old, we can look back and say, that was good. And what I left behind was what will impact people for a long period of time. And I mean, what is our life if it's not that?
Well, you're succeeding because you've definitely impacted me, and I'm sure there's many more who have not reached out to you. So just, yeah, you're succeeding. You are living a beautiful, meaningful life. I've continued to draw inspiration from your actions. So thank you. Um, how do you, if someone's struggling to find that meeting as a mentor, how would you guide them to discover that?
I think the first step is you need to know who you are. And so your question to me is a question I ask every single person that I work with, and that is, what is your values? What are the values? And what I usually encourage them to do is go online and find a page of values and write down every single one that touches them, and then start scratching out the ones in the least important to the most important. And when they've got somewhere between 3 and 5 left, they've really identified who they are as a person and what's important to them. And I think that that's a really good place to start. When I was young, I wrote a slogan for myself. It was when I was young. It was after the Great Lakes, and it was dream, believe, laugh, achieve, inspire. And that's on every single one of my emails. And it's something that became very close to me because that's how I wanted to live my life. And then COVID hit. And then my husband, just about around the same time, was diagnosed with a devastating illness. And I was trying to figure out, how do I live this life? This is a completely different experience for me. And what I did is I changed my slogan to match the life that I was living. And it was slow down, be patient, be kind. And so with the people that I was dealing with in the world, the people that were struggling because they couldn't see a person's face, the people that were struggling because they didn't want to put on a mask, everybody was in this weird world. And so I reminded myself, slow down, be patient, be kind. And as my husband went through his illness, and he was diagnosed with a major neurodegenerative condition where he was functioning on level in January, and by the time December had rolled around, he passed away. And so that was a very long journey in a very short period of time. But finding that life slogan helped me deal with so many different moments in that, so that I could say I'm proud of how I managed the situation. And I'm not saying I handled every situation perfectly, because we can't do that. But because I had that slogan, I responded more appropriately and better more often. And so I think that we need this. We need to know why we're living our life, and we have to have the freedom to change it over time. And I've kept that slogan to as part of who I am, but I've also gone back to dream, believe, laugh, achieve, inspire, because that speaks very much to who I am and how I want to live my life as I support young people through their sport and through their journeys.
Wow, that's thank you for being vulnerable. Thank you for sharing that, because that's very difficult to speak about. I'm sure you're going to inspire people even through grief, through those hard times as well. So thank you for being vulnerable and trusting us with that. Yeah, that's difficult. My condolences to you.
Yeah, it was an incredibly difficult time where we didn't even know how to live during COVID, and we were trying to maneuver all sorts of different things. And I think that we can look at times like that and see the negatives in all of it. Or we can look at times like that and find some sort of positive, some sort of path that was created, or a journey And I can look at that time and I know all of the negative things that were going on, but I can also look back and be thankful for moments and thankful for lessons learned, thankful for family who were there when I didn't know what I needed. One of the things that as a coach and a human being, I was really not good at was self-care. I'd never considered it. I just figured I could just keep on going and doing the things that I was doing. And my mother came over to my apartment every single day, twice, once for an hour so I could go out and take care of myself and do something that was important to me, and once so I could go coach. So when COVID was up and down, when I was allowed to coach, my mother made sure I could. But she knew I needed that to be who I was, but she also identified I needed physical activity. I needed to do something artistic, and she provided that time. And I don't think we realize how little we care for ourselves and how much we do for other people. And I think it's really important that we stop and we take care of ourselves as students, as athletes, as coaches, as human beings, in any aspect of our life. If we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not teaching our young people what they need to do, and we're not supporting or helping ourselves or them.
Wow. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's a marathon swimmer trait, if I'm being honest. We mentally, we have to put ourselves in that mindset of just push through anything, but life will sometimes throw things you just can't push through. Is the truth, right? Like, I mean, you're gonna be knocked down, you're still gonna come back, but you're gonna be knocked down for a bit. Wow.
But as an open water swimmer, you can push yourself to the nth degree, knowing that afterwards you need to take the time to recover. Right? Yeah, and that's really important. Also, it's remembering the self-care. As a coach, I create a training plan every year, and it focuses in on the main event. And then I work backwards from there. So I know all the different stages I'm going to go to there. But right after the main event is 2 weeks of rest and recovery. Right? So I create the event, I create the rest and recovery, and then I figure out how we're going to get to there. But we have to program in that rest and recovery.
Yeah, I think if I'm being honest, I'm just coming out of that rest and recovery period. And for me, there's kind of like a crisis of meaning when you're there, because you're so used to having such a strong sense of it. You know, when I did my Manitoulin swim, the purpose was palpable. I could see it around people and I could feel it. And then when I was done swimming, I was just, you know, once I finally stopped, my body's like, oh, we can rest now, and then just kind of shut down, right?
Yeah.
And then it's where's the meaning there, you know, in that rest recovery period. It's a hard time. I'm just, you know, for me it was a really hard time, and now I'm kind of as well shifting some values. So the number one value for my swim was inspiration, and now I've kind of been switching to connection, because I feel like especially in the past 2 years we've been lacking it, you know, like we've been isolated. I think to be human you need to be around other people.
Yeah, it's been really challenging. I mean, and in that whole process, I moved to Toronto. So I live in a beautiful house on Amherst Island during the weekends, but I'm coaching in Toronto, so I live in a basement apartment 5 days out of the week. And so there's no connection there. You move to a new city and you don't know anybody there. So it just compounds everything, and it always comes back to I have to get home so I can be surrounded by the people who love me, and I can be surrounded by nature, because those are the things that heal me faster than anything. One inhalation on Amherst Island is a lifetime. It's just, I'm here, right? And you can just be there in that moment.
Yeah, that nature component, it's healing, right? I've just beautiful, and I find just being in nature, you feel the healing kind of happen. I think that's something people probably, or not many people, those close to you do, but most people know you as a swimmer. But as I saw you on Facebook, you take such beautiful pictures, you know? So what's the meaning? What's the meaning component from your photography? What's the meaning component there?
I've taken pictures my whole life. As a young person, I would take pictures and never develop the film because I would procrastinate. And then film became a non-issue. And so I started to see what I was creating and be able to like you can look at the picture, you go, okay, I messed that up. And you can adjust it right then in that moment. I had a camera, I enjoyed using it. But again, when John got ill, I needed outlets, and I bought myself a macro lens. And so I could be drawn closer and closer into a different world. And I would stop and I'd see a pretty flower, and I'd go to take a picture of it. And then I would see the lighting and the way the stamen set, or the way the petals set, or there's a bug on there. And so you get drawn closer and closer into this world. And I could be lost for 15 minutes just in one part of a wanderer, and seeing just all the different things in that one little space, and not go beyond, like spend 15 minutes without taking 3 steps. And so that for me was discovering a whole new world. And I have a telephoto lens, and I love taking pictures of nature, but I really love just getting closer and closer and closer into the world that other people never see.
Yeah, artists just see things differently. Sometimes I just walk by something and then someone takes a picture of it, and you see everything you didn't see.
And if you had 10 photographers take a picture of the same thing, each of them would find a different perspective, different lighting, different so many different things in that you would walk away with 10 completely different photos. Right. And so it's somebody's eye and seeing it differently than others that I think is really exciting.
Yeah, I love it. It's beautiful. It's beauty. As a mentor, kind of switching gears a bit, have you seen you help other people find that sense of meaning? Have you had that experience?
Yeah, I think that each time you speak with somebody, you sort of connect, you figure out what their journey is, and you try and help guide them on part of that journey. And I think that's why I like mentorship so much. And I'm able to tie it to my swimming career, because I had such a long swimming career and had the opportunity to experience so many things, both challenges and successes, that I can relate to almost any situation on some level. I think about my attempt at swimming 80 kilometers butterfly. And we started out in 3-meter swells, chop on top. I was being thrown every which way. 3 o'clock in the morning, I knew there was no way I was going to be successful. But because of my experience over time, I knew that if I gave up at 3 o'clock in the morning, that I would question whether I had made a mistake in that moment. And so what I learned is you never make a life-altering decision when you're at your emotional lowest. So I continued to swim in those waves for a number of hours. When the sun finally rose, I could see the waves. I could see the boats struggling to stay close to me. I could see the kayaks and the zodiacs all over the place. And at that moment, I was able to say, I'm making the right decision. I'm feeling good right now, because once the sun rises, you feel better. And I called the boats over. I confirmed what I needed to know. And I said, okay, I'm going to get out of the water. But I still had 10 minutes to swim before they could pull me out of the water, because they had to gather the boats around and make sure everybody was safe. And in that 10 minutes, I continued to swim butterfly, because I hadn't swum any stroke other than butterfly that whole year, just to be sure I didn't mess up. And in that 10 minutes, I thought, how do I fix this? How do I make this turn into something positive? And by the time I touched the boat, I already knew what I was going to do. And it was to change the course so that my crew members were safe, be in the same body of water, so I wasn't changing the amount of effort it would require to be successful, but change the route so that we could be closer to land, so if we required something, we would be safer. And less than 7 days later, I was back in Lake Ontario, aiming for that 80 kilometers butterfly. I had thought it was going to take me 48 hours. At one point, I thought it was going to take me 36 hours, but 60 7 hours and 10 minutes later or something, I touched the rock and completed the swim. And I mean, there's just so many ups and downs in any open water swim. And there's these moments where everything is going right. And you just know that this is the moment, this is the journey, this is the sport that you love. And there's other moments when you're 2 feet underwater after a wave has thrown you and you're vomiting and you're not sure where you're going to get your next breath of air. And you have one bubble left in your mouth so that you can let it go and see which way is up, so you at least know you're going in the right direction. And it's like what am I doing? Am I crazy? But it's this wave of positives and negatives that just it's our whole life in one swim. And I think that's why I love it, is just this journey. And it's so clear, the positives and negatives, the ups and the downs, but you can always come out in the right direction.
Wow. That's all I got to say is wow. Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. I think so much there. One, to be able to shift your meaning so quickly, because I know the pain of not making it. You know, I've not completed some swims. That's just part of the sport if you do enough of them.
Absolutely.
And it's hard to shift gears like that. So I like how you shifted gears from completion of swim to crew safety, which, we're being honest, that's really what's important, right? If you complete the swim, but you know, you're not going to be happy afterwards. So good on you for being able to shift gears so quickly, because I know when you're in that mentality, it's not easy to shift gears, right?
If you keep on going in one direction, right? Yeah, no, it is. Yeah.
The other thing that's incredible is, you know, the fact that you got back in after 7 days, like that's quick to get back in after a marathon swim.
After 24 hours of butterfly, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then to do that, said 64 hours, though you said 63?
Yeah, it was, I can't remember exactly.
Whatever. It was something more than 2 days. Yeah. More than 2 days of swimming.
Yeah, it was all day, all night, all day, all night, all day. And 11 o'clock that night is when I finally completed the swim.
I got a little more background on that one, because you said that to me before starting my swim, which really inspired me, but was to swim with your heart, right?
Yeah.
You dedicated during that's the swim, I'm guessing, that every 30 minutes you dedicated to an individual.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, that's the one. Yeah, so I had a list of names and I thought I would go through it X number of times. And it was way more than that. But for every half hour I was swimming for a different participant in the program, and every time the name changed, I would say, well, I'm feeling awful right now, but there's no way I'm going to give up in Chad's half hour, because he would be disappointed. And so sometimes when you can't find the need to go forward from yourself, you can reach out to others. And so for me, it was the swimmers. But there's so many reasons that you can keep going, and you have to know beforehand what some of those reasons are. Right. So for me, the fundraising was really important. For me, it was making a positive impact. But if you know going into the swim what these are, when you're at your emotional lowest, you can pick the one that's going to impact you the most at that time. Right. I've got to keep going so I can raise the money. I've got to keep going because this is Chad's half hour. I've got to keep going because people believe in me. And if I let them down, they may not see the potential in their own success. Right. But whatever that little moment is, if you can grab hold of it and bring it into yourself, then it does make a difference.
Yeah. The word I use is purpose, but I think they're pretty similar. Purpose and meaning. Would you say they're similar?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Would you say two different words, or just semantics? Or do you think it's just semantics calling them different things, or do you think purpose and meaning is the difference?
No, I think they're pretty darn close.
Yeah, me too.
And I think that sometimes we in speech we don't choose our words as carefully because we're trying to keep the flow. It's one of the reasons I like to write, because when I write, I can stop and change a word here or there and go back and really craft it. And so when I'm doing my Facebook post, people go, oh, that's nice. And I'm going, you have no idea how many days / weeks it took me to put that whole message together, because it looks pretty right now. But if I'm writing something, it takes me a long time to choose the right words. And then we speak, and we've got to keep the flow, and so we don't choose the words we want. But yeah, I think life purpose, life meaning, I think it's all very similar.
Yeah. I would love to keep this conversation going, but unfortunately we're running low on time. Usually I close by just giving my guests, so giving you the mic, and you just speak your heart and speak your mind, which people get, take a little 30 seconds or whatever you need to think about what you need to say. But especially if someone's going to live a meaningful life, what advice would you give them? Or you don't have to answer that question. Whatever's on your heart and on your mind, I'm listening.
I think it's really important to see possibilities when others are seeing impossibilities. If everybody else is seeing a limitation, you have to be able to look and see the potential in that same situation. Over and over again, I've been told, you can't. It's not possible. That can't be done. You cannot swim across all 5 Great Lakes in one summer. It can't be done. You can't swim across Lake Michigan. It's too far. You can't swim across Lake Huron. It's too far. You can't swim 80 kilometers butterfly. It can't be done. You can't swim across the Juan de Fuca. It's too cold. And in all of those, the only thing I could think about is nothing is impossible. And just because one person can't imagine it doesn't mean you can't achieve it. And I think that that's really important, is just because somebody else doesn't see the potential in what you're doing or in what you plan to do, or they don't see the possibility in it, doesn't mean there isn't potential or there isn't a possibility in it. It's a different perspective. And I can't imagine if I live my life by the restrictions of others. I'm so thankful that I had the freedom to make decisions for myself so that I could reach out and achieve the things that I was able to do. And then to be able to share that message with others so that they can do the same thing as well.
Wow. Thank you so much for your wisdom, for your experience, and also for your vulnerability, because you shared some difficult things. So thank you so much. I always end the episode by sharing my meaning statement, which is, I'm a light for dark places. So I've reflected on that, and I've learned there's 2 ways. One is to do the inspirational things like doing the swims, but I've found that the better way is to be a mirror, and that's to reflect your own light right back at you. So I like to end by giving my guests 3 compliments.
Oh dear.
So the first one would be heart. You know, you've got heart, and that's very evident in all the swims and causes you've involved yourself in. The next one would be beauty. You've lived a beautiful life. You know, you've got an eye for beauty in your art and also in your actions. And the other one would be possibility. Where others see impossibility, you see possibility, you know? So I love that. And like I said, without you knowing it, you've shaped my mindset. And I'm sure as people watch today, you will have shaped some more mindsets, because your words are inspiring. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.